Hey guys, Evogrinn here, and I just wanted to go over my current tanking setup for plugins in LOTRO. I'm sure there's tons of videos online about how to install and set up plugins, so I just wanted to give a rundown of how I have some main ones set up. Might be beneficial to some of you guys who are wanting to get the most that you can out of LOTRO, especially in the role of main tank. So I'm running about 4 plugins right now. The first one is Combat Analysis, which I just have a pretty minimal setup here in the lower right hand side just to see especially taken per second, heals per second stats. Don't always have that up, but it's there if I want it, so I'll leave it there for now. But I'm using 4 main plugins. That's one of them. The others, I'm going to go / buff bars options, and I kind of show you I'm using buff bars, combat analysis, Palantir, and tonic bars. And the first thing I'll go over is tonic bars. Really enjoy this plugin. It's been super helpful lately. So I just went into the easy bars version of it, and what it does is it allows you to set up skill related bars wherever you want on the screen via an edit mode. And I've got 2, one for marks and one for heralds. The way I have them set up is I put marks here. I realized that during certain pulls with multiple mobs, one would die that I had a mark on, and I would forget to immediately put up a mark on the next target. And what this does is it allows me to see right here in front of me if I've always got a mark up. And I've got 2 different ones just for situational changes. But that was super helpful for me. The other one that I have is I'd realized that my herald, which is down here right now, would die, and then I wouldn't immediately be able to notice that in the midst of rotations and stuff. So what I did was I made a second bar here that if my herald despawns, I get my heralds to pop up right there, and I have it triggered where that'll disappear as soon as I have a herald up again. What I did to get that is I went into, I guess I have herald set up here, and then in quick slots under heralds I have it set as triggered when the buff is not active under triggered when. So super cool. It just allows me to really stay on top of immediate respawns to have these things right here because they're so vital to tanking, and so that way I can stay on top of it. The next thing here that I have is under Palantir. I'm going to go to Palantir options. Palantir is a really cool plugin. It's actually set up as a health bar here, which I realized I'm not really using that. I prefer to have my my vitals here, and then my target vitals are over here. I much rather have that, and I think I'm just so used to using it anyway. So what I've done here is I've dropped the opacity and everything just fully down on all of that where you can't even see it. But what is nice is this here. So this allows you to slot pots in these 4 different quick slots here. And what will happen is I'll go down to options here and show the debuff opacity. If I were to get a wound or a poison, then this will light up green here on a poison, and I'll be able to click this to immediately pot it, which is super nice just to have it flashing right there. Otherwise it feels like a lot more having to go here, look, find what it is, and then go down here and click a pot. It just is kind of I guess just ease of life type thing. So I use that. It's pretty nice. And then I have it set to only show up in combat, which is nice as well. So yeah, that's Palantir. And then the last one here is buff bars, and I've done quite a bit here to kind of get it set up well. So buff bars normally, I'll go to effect windows and create a new window. So normally what's going to happen when you have your default buff bars is you just kind of see everything over here on the left. If I go into combat, ignore the stuff down here for now, that's kind of my personal setup, but up here you just start having all kinds of buffs set up. And what a lot of people do that are kind of new to using is they'll see them just kind of leave everything debuffs, buffs, and they'll kind of blacklist some things that they don't want on, and not really the ideal setup. Kind of what I did is this. So you can go in, we're still on the bar on the top left right now, so I went in, and then you can manually take away everything. So I'm going to take away all buffs, all debuffs, and then what I did, you can select that, it all disappears. What I did is I went in and I manually added skills, and I made 2 of these, 2 windows, and you can move them around. So I made one for debuffs and one for buffs. And for my captain tanking rotation, I wanted to make sure I had things like battle ready, battle hardened, and my armor buff and stuff like that. So you can go in And for instance, if you want to get the name of a skill, which you'll need for this, you can go in here, hit H, right? So it's going to tooltip the buff name. And then what I did, I'm just going to go ahead and delete this new window here and show you kind of what I have for delete that. So for buffs, the way I have it set up is I have these current buffs here, and the way I did it was battle ready. We can edit here. You just go to template, you go to custom, and I just typed it in letter for letter here, and then you want this exact tooltipped buff, so you go to your bar here, you tooltip the buff, and you're going to search it or add it manually based on the name. So you want to make sure to get capital letters right. Now that it's in, it doesn't matter, but you want to make sure to get caps right, and you can manually add it and select it as a buff. So type in, select as buff, type in again, and accept. And what I've done is I've manually added just these buffs to show up in my buff bar. So you can see here when I go into combat, immediately I have battle ready showing up, I've got my armor showing up, I've got on guard showing up, and I really enjoy it. That way I can kind of make sure to rotate and keep my tanking rotation going well. I think I also have a couple different things that I just like Shield Brothers calls on there. So a couple of those skills to be able to just time and see where I'm at with stuff is nice. And then I've got debuffs in the left hand corner. You don't see that right now, but I just went through and added debuffs, and I've been blacklisting debuffs that I don't really care to see. And then the other thing here is for defensive cooldowns, I've done the same thing. I went to effects sliders, not windows, but this time sliders, and it's gonna have a sliding bar right here. I deleted everything, and then I added my defensive cooldowns the same way, tooltipped them and added them to this bar. And the result of that is that when I go to pop a defensive cooldown, like let's say I pop fighting withdrawal here, that will show up on this bar, and that gives me a really good time frame for what I'm working with as far as when I'm going to start taking major damage again. Another one that I have on, I think, is to arms, right? So the incoming damage, the 15% there, I can see the duration of that on this bar. So it's super nice, especially for things like if you go last stand in harm's way here, you kind of get a grid for where you are in the midst of a fight. It's kind of hard to tell, but I can tell when we're starting to get down to the 2-3 seconds. That's when it's time to use strength in numbers. That's when it's time to maybe pop shield. And so yeah, big fan of this setup. And again, it's pretty minimalist. I've kind of tried to take away all the unnecessary stuff. So hopefully that can help you guys a little bit. If any of it's useful, if you guys want help configuring anything, let me know in comments and I can try to get back to you on it. And this might be a little bit much for some people, but these have kind of really helped as far as ease of life with main tanking, being able to keep buffs up permanently and really optimize the rotation. So anyways, thanks for listening, guys, and I will see you around.